Anti-Semitism, it's been around for a long time, but seems as though it's been on the rise ever since the October 7th Hamas terror attack on Israel. Now, in Ontario, there's a situation recently in which well, not recently, I guess, but shortly after that time there, a middle school girl was allegedly bullied and assaulted simply because she's Jewish. So joining us to discuss this is Richard Marceau. He's the Vice President, External Affairs and General Counsel with the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. So good to have you with us, Richard.
Thank you, Paul, for having me.
You bet. Can you share the backstory with our viewers here? So what happened to this young girl while she was at school?
So this young Jewish girl was the subject of harassment, of bullying, of assault, and that is obviously unacceptable. We can go through examples. I can give you, for example, there was one day on school property, but outside of the school, there was a walkout and there was an anti-Israel demonstration. The young girl tried to avoid the demonstration, and then somebody said, "Hey, look who's there, she's Jewish." They ran after her, they swarmed her, saying stuff like "Jews must die" and the like. So imagine you have a middle school girl who is thus threatened on school property. And that is obviously not something that is acceptable in today's Ontario or in today's Canada.
Absolutely. I mean, assume the student or her parents talked to the teachers and administration about this, correct?
They did, and they were unsatisfied with the response. Nobody was disciplined for doing what they did, and there were other stuff. She was pushed to the ground at different times.
She was pushed to the ground.
Yes.
Wow.
There
Okay.
was another time where stickers were put on her locker to intimidate her. And the authorities, the school authorities, did not do what they should have done to protect that child. And this is the reason why the family approached us, asking how we could help. And we tried to do it in a way that would be as little as easy as possible for everybody, but there was not a real good answer, good response by the school, and that is why the CIJA's legal task force took on the case and is now suing the Peel District School Board.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when something like this takes place in a Canadian public school, we would expect that swift corrective action would take place, right? So what kind of steps should the school have taken to protect this student?
Well, certainly the people who were responsible for this, and some of them were identified, should have been disciplined.
Yeah.
And that child should have been protected and not put in a place basically say, okay, well, we can't do that much or we're going to leave you on the side to protect you. That is not the way to do it. And again, I would like your viewers, Paul, to put themselves in the shoes of those parents, seeing their kid coming back from school, where it should be a place where they not only learn, of course, but have fun and create memories that could last a lifetime and make friendships. That's not what happened. She was harassed again. She was bullied, assaulted, and that leaves scars.
Well, that brings memories, all right, but not good ones, you know? I mean, wow. And you'd mentioned there was a demonstration, right? Now, I understand, you know, we're at the school. Like, this is apparently a pro-Palestinian protest on school grounds during school hours? Is that correct?
It was a walkout, as I understand it, and obviously just there is an issue. And schools are a place to learn. Schools are a place to grow and to mature. And no kid, no child should be the subject of divisive, toxic environments. And the Peel District School Board failed in making sure that toxicity, that anti-Semitic atmosphere be stopped, and that is why they should be held they should be held accountable.
I mean, I mean, if I was a parent, you know, had students at that school, I would be talking to the administration and the school board saying, why are you having these kinds of, you know, protests that are obviously very controversial and divisive? Hey, you got all kinds of different ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds here. And is this necessary? And could it potentially blow up? And as it did, I'm told apparently at this particular, you know, demonstration that the student was actually identified as Jewish, and about what 40 students, something like that, surrounded the student. And again, you mentioned, you know, saying things like, you know, Jews must die and so forth. Like, I mean, that's craziness. That should never happen in a public school system. So I'd be saying, hey, you know, school board, do something about this. Make sure this sort of thing doesn't happen again.
That is correct. So the school board should have done, so school should have done better. School board should have done better. But ultimately the responsibility is also with the Ontario government. And I think they should also ensure that our kids are safe, and that if a school board doesn't do what is necessary to protect kids, there could be consequences for the school board.
Well, there should be, you know. Now, you allege that following this protest, the principal attempted to shift blame onto the plaintiff by claiming they didn't exactly hide that they were Jewish. So is that implying that one should hide the fact that you're Jewish? I mean, I don't quite get that.
I saw this when I first heard it, and my jaw dropped on the floor.
Yeah.
Since when are we asking people, anybody in fact, to hide who they are? Is that the society that we want? Is that a society that we would want Jews and all people to hide their parts of their identity? And that to me was when I said, okay, something has to be done, because it's basically victim blaming here.
Yeah.
It was putting the responsibility of this toxicity, of this hate, of this anti-Semitism on the victim, and no group should accept that. And it showed to me that the school board and the school authority did not understand what they were dealing with, and were not willing to do what was appropriate.
Absolutely. Now, apparently one of the teachers singled out the student because of her Jewish identity. So I'm trying to wrap my head around that one. Like, why would that take place? Was there a good reason for that?
There was no reason to do that. There's no reason to put the blame on the victim of this harassment, of this bullying, of this violence. This is completely unacceptable. We would not accept that of any group. And Paul, you mentioned at the beginning, you were seeing a rise of anti-Semitism just in the last 2 weeks. There was a shooting in Washington. There was a peaceful march in Boulder, Colorado, that was attacked. Somebody setting the walkers on fire. We see this now in Ontario. Yesterday, the Holocaust monument in Ottawa was vandalized. And Statistics Canada show that even though Jews represent 1% of Canadian population, they are the target of 70% of religiously motivated hate crimes in Canada. So Canada in 2025 is not a welcoming place for Jews, and I believe that the promise of Canada has been broken.
Yeah, I mean, those are completely crazy, unacceptable stats. So, well, a little bit like, I mean, yeah. So what do we do about it? I'm not Jewish, so should I care? Yes, I should, because it doesn't stop there. That sort of thing kind of creeps and expands to other parties as well. And I believe we should stand side by side with any people group that's being discriminated against, and especially in these kinds of ways. Now, I'm sure there's some very good teachers in that whole district, Peel District School Board, et cetera, but I'm told they have a bit of a history of racism and anti-Semitism. Can you share a bit about that?
Well, in the past, the Peel District School Board has had problems, and was actually under government control for a while. It's a problematic school board. It's not new. They obviously have not put their house in order. And who's paying the price for this is people like this young girl that we're talking about. And of everything that any authority does, whether it's school, whether it's municipally, provincially, or federally, the most important thing, I believe, is our children. It's our future, and everybody should be protected, should be safe, should be made to feel safe, and should feel that that the people in charge have their best interests at heart, and this is not what we saw.
Okay, so what do we do with this, I guess? So they have a history now, and again, the government tried to intervene to some degree, sounds like. Have steps been taken here to bring about change, whether that's with teachers, with the school board members, with administration? I mean, obviously something needs to change here in order for students and parents to feel safe and to get a proper education without looking over the shoulder the whole time.
And here, unfortunately, the unions are not helping.
Okay.
Unions, teachers' unions that are toxic, and Jewish members of that union are feeling that toxicity, that anti-Semitism, and whereas we would hope that a teachers' union would be on the side of fighting intolerance, of fighting hate, of fighting anti-Semitism, this is not what we're seeing. So there needs to be better control. There needs to be better understanding of what is acceptable, what is not, including in terms of discourse. The Ontario government, like the Canadian government, has adopted the definition of anti-Semitism that was written by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, which should be basically the North Star for everybody trying to deal with anti-Semitism and identifying anti-Semitism. That would be a good place to start. I think everybody should be trained properly, and by everybody I mean the teachers, I mean school administrators, I mean the trustees and the civil servants in the trustee positions, in civil servant in the school board, because it is a scourge, it's a cancer that's unfortunately growing, and everybody needs to be able to understand it and fight it properly.
It just seems to me that had this particular student been of a different heritage, and there's a bunch you could just pick out, different people groups, different religious groups, there would have been much, much more outrage in our media and from our government and from our school boards. But dare I say it, it's only a Jewish student. That seems to be, a prevailing attitude that needs to change.
So I'm not much into victimhood Olympics, but I'm going to say that there is a standard now, double standard, that things that are said about Jews and are done against Jews that would not, as you correctly pointed out, Paul, that are now currently accepted, and people kind of condoning it by not reacting to it, and that's very problematic. And society has to wake up. Society has to realize that things that start with Jews never end with Jews. And history, unfortunately, has shown this time and time again. So it's not a Jewish problem, Paul. It's a Canadian problem, and unless we fix it, the entire society will pay the price for it.
Any final thoughts for our viewers here, what they could do to help, I guess, bring about changes to fix it?
Well, first of all, thank you, Paul, for willing to shed a light on this. That's important for people to see and hear how deep the problem is. If you have friends or even family members or colleagues that are Jewish, reach out to them, because we're hurting. We feel under siege because we are under siege. And then ask them in that environment what can be done to help. If it's an issue of anti-Semitism in their workplace, or or at City Hall, or in their union, or in the cultural center, or in their theater group, because unfortunately that Jew hatred, anti-Semitism is now creeping everywhere.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate you taking a stand there, and thanks for being with us today, Richard.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
You bet. Richard Marceau, the Vice President with the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs.